Keely here in my Terial Art studio. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make pod flowers. It is another one of my techniques of making flowers. So far I've developed two. So to begin with, you gather or you base stitch a 1/4 inch from the edge of the pod. I've also, I'll show you here, have done the same for the petals and the ruffle. I'm going to start by pulling the base stitching, and by the way, I use quilt thread. It makes a much stronger thread for pulling, and when you're pulling all the way around a circle like this, you want a stronger thread. In the event that you don't have quilting thread and it seems like it's really tough to gather, spritz it with a little bit of water in a little spray bottle. It'll take it back to a very limp form and make it very easy to gather. That's how I used to make all my flowers before I learned about quilt thread from a friend. So I'm going to just try to take this all the way around. You just want to form a cup so that when you apply it to your pod center, this is the pod center. I say to use cardstock, but I just use cardboard from gift boxes. That works fine. So anyway, you cut that out to size, and you also cut 2 pieces of batting. And I like to adhere the batting to the pod base like this before I layer it in. So I'm just going to put this in side, and the gathering just really helps. I could have gathered a little bit further, but this will be okay for right now, because I'm just going to add a bead of glue all the way around. Make sure I get underneath there where it's starting to curl over. We can just let it set here for a second because it's going to take a minute for it to get tacky. Again, this should have been gathered a little bit better on this end, but you can see it'll still work even if you don't get your gathers complete. These are little clover clips. They work great to hold your fabric down while it's drying. As you can see, I'm just going to push it down all the way around. And use all my fingers. Okay, now it's down enough that I can probably flip it over and just press it down on the counter. When I'm using glues, I like to use a paper plate or a cutting mat to protect the surface. But just remember, if you use a cutting mat, you probably will scar up your cutting mat as I have. So I'll just try to be neat today and not get glue all over the place. So there's your pod. All right, once you have your pod, turn it face down and take your petals. We will do 1/2 of the flower at a time. So I'm gathering the sunflower petals. We will do 1/2 at a time. And this needs to measure 5.5 inches, which is about there. And I will pull the top thread tight to lock it so I don't have to tie it. Trim my threads. And I'm going to place a bead of glue on 1/2 of the wrong side of the pod. Like that. And then this is one-sided fabric. It's not a batik. So it is important to make sure that you lay the right side of the fabric down, starting at one end and just laying it down to the other. I'm trying to align the bobbin stitches of the petals with the gathering stitches on the pod. It looks about right, but you might want to flip it over just to make sure everything's looking right and that your base stitches aren't up too far and showing on this side. So we'll just press that down a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and lay another bead of glue for the other side right now here, so that it can kind of be drying while I'm gathering the other petals. Again, we'll be gathering those to 5.5 inches. And whenever I'm basting petals, I like to back tack one end, the opposite end, so I have something to gather to and I don't have to tie 2 knots or pull 2 ends. So this is about at 5.5 now. I'm going to pull the top thread and I'm just going to even the gathers best I can. And then I'm going to place the right side down, starting where the other one ended. I'm pushing down around, and it looks like it's a little longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to kind of scrunch it. You can just make it work. Flower making isn't, everything has to be exact all the time. It's just making it look good. So if we flip it over, you can see, even though it's not perfect, it looks great. So we will now apply a ruffle. And a ruffle is going to really soften the pod edge where it meets the petals. Sorry, I need some trimming here. Okay. So this is your ruffle, and I had you gather 1/4 inch from each edge. And that is so your machine could handle it. If it was just this 1/2 inch size, a lot of machines would just eat that up. So I decided to go ahead and make it 1 inch, and then I'm going to fold it in half to give me a cut line, because I need a 1/2 inch ruffle strip. I actually need 2. So now that I have that, you could also rotary cut this, which would probably be easier. And I'm just gonna cut it. Okay. Now we're going to gather this to 5.25 inches. So walk those gathers down. Being careful not to pull too hard. Be gentle. And you can see this is not a batik, and it'll unravel a little bit more than the batiks do. But I would wait to trim any of the threads until after it's all glued down, because I actually like some of the loose threads as another texture. I think it looks good. Okay, we're at about, that's a little bit big. There we go. So I'm going to pull the top thread again to lock it. Trim. Now we're going to place a bead of glue just inside the edge here. And again, I'm just going to go all the way around 1/2 of the flower. And then we're just going to lay this on top. And press down as it's setting. other side. Okay, once it measures to your 5 1/4 inch, glue the other half. Place a bead of glue along this inner edge of the pod. There you go. And try to tuck the end in just a little bit so that it all looks like it's one piece. And just press down until it's set. Okay. Next we're going to go to adhering this to the sepal, which will attach to the stem. I have already covered the stem with fabric and made my leaf. The sepal will need to be sewn together with a regular stitch so that it creates the sepal. I turn the wrong side out and slide it onto the stem. Fold up the 2 little tabs here and here, and 1 inch from the tip of the wire, place a little bead of glue on each of these tabs. And press them against the stem so that the sepal is glued to the stem. A little glue on my fingers. Paper towels are great to get the glue off your fingers. Okay. This is a sepal batting, and it's cut in such a way that you can wrap it around the sepal and then flip the sepal up. So that's just going to create a little bit of fluff in there. And now I'm going to take some wire cutters, some needle nose plier, and I'm going to bend at 1/2 inch. I should put that down, sorry, I shouldn't have put that up yet. Bend it about 1/2 inch down, perpendicular to the stem, so that it's flat. This is going to lay against the back of your flower. So now you can push your sepal up, put a bead of glue on this bent stem, there, and then I like to put a bead of glue just inside the entire edge of the sepal. It's kind of stringy, but it's okay. That glue will all get stuck down. So now you're going to take the sepal and the stem and center it. You know, kind of look at the center it down, and push this down so that it hits the cardboard. And then you can press this outer edge down all the way around. And give it a little bit of time so that it can set as you continue to press around the back of the flower. And all the while, make sure that you're pressing down so that this stem does lock to the back of the flower. Okay, so now you can bend your flower at the neck down, and there you are. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video on making pod flowers. The first 6 flowers that I have released, 2 of them are pod flowers, the sunflower and the Terial girl. The Terial girl is a very fun little character that can either have eyes or not have eyes, but she also has this very wide face, just like the sunflower. So these are both pod flowers, and you will be using the pod technique. So get creative, have some fun, and email me all about what you've been doing.